Did you lose weight, Ben?
No, I cut my beard off.
Is that what happened?
That's what
What'd you lose, like 50 pounds? That was like most of your body weight, right?
I lost 10 years of age.
You close at 4?
Yeah.
Why do you close at 4?
It's 3:59, I can help
Robo
you.
is to stay up until 5. It'll be fine.
There's a motor you can buy that plugs into the pedal system.
Yeah.
And then you can run the motor.
Sounds like a scam. I'm not gonna buy it.
All right.
All right, man, let's look at this piece of crap.
Here's the overdrive.
This has a charger. Oh, it's tiny, huh?
Yeah, and then it just plugs into the drive itself, and then that runs the prop.
What's that, another grand?
Yeah. Okay.
This is the most stock you're ever gonna see it again, ladies and gentlemen. Look at it. Look at it.
Well, it's gonna be good.
This video is brought to you by Power Queen. When I found out they made a 50 amp hour battery that only weighs 9 pounds and replaces a U1 AGM, I had to have it. Like, weight is critical in everything. Critical in a kayak, critical in this small little pond prowler, especially after all the stuff we did to it. And I tell you, this battery, in conjunction with other batteries in series that are all lithium, made the difference in terms of weight. Everybody's worried about weight in these small boats. You should be worried. That's why you should get this battery. Check it out. There's a link in the description. And we will also be using this battery exclusively in this boat and in the Dorado V1 and V2 that we are featuring. I've ran this specific battery in 3 small watercraft on several different occasions. In some of these, well over 30 hours of combined fishing time. In some of these small applications where you can't fit 3 batteries in there, you have one battery doing multiple purposes. And 2 of my tiny boats, I had this battery running the trolling motor, plus a graph, plus all the house electronics for the boat, and I had no voltage drop issues. In this Dorado V1 and V2, it powered the whole thing, the motor and the electronics for the kayak. Check the promo code in the description and the comment section to get a look at these batteries and get one for yourself. Long story short, I bought this kayak because I can't stick 2 tiny boats in a trailer and then shove them in my toy hauler. I had the sub-genius idea to make a tandem trailer where you could just double stack them like this. And, you know, in theory it was alright. 2 winches, 1 long post, you could stick them all together, it would survive the earthquake inside the travel trailer. Then you could just port it in the lake and shove them out like this. The trailer had some flaws, definitely some hindsight that I have now when I make the version 2 trailer, but, you know, it did the job. But why buy this one? There's a plethora of kayaks this expensive out there, all claiming to be the best. I guess when I looked at all of them, I just look at what they could possibly be, and you can't just test them all. I've tested a few Hobies, a few other ones, not terribly impressed by anything I've actually tried, but when you look at the Dorado's hull, you can tell that it's likely more stable and likely more heavy than the average kayak. And then watching some of the reviews and the criticism about the heaviness of the kayak, but I don't know how seriously I can take those individuals. I mean, heavy to whom? Heavy to you maybe, but not to others. I would say that if you're a fairly strong person, you'll love this kayak. You'll be able to understand and enjoy the benefits of the added weight because it adds to the stability, along with the whole design, which is clearly ridiculous. And as far as pedaling and paddling, it does alright. It doesn't go the fastest, obviously it's no stealth, but it's better than this thing. I remember specific times while doing this that I kind of wished I had a kayak because it would just glide over all those mats and I could get right there along the strawgrass line to just frog. Don't worry, the boat is still a win. It had a bunch of W's, but it definitely does take an L in terms of stealth right over those mats. The lake was covered by a significant amount of mats and I could not chop through it with the trolling motor I had on it. Unless you're going to put a 36 volt, like 120 pound trolling motor on this small little boat, you're really not going to get through those mats, trolling motor alone. I guess if kayaks win, aside from portability, it's there. Drop this motor in. Let's see what she'll do. Okay, actual propulsion. It's kind of loud. Yeah, it's got some get up and go. It's loud though, man. It's so loud. As always, I will note how freaking stable this kayak is. It is quite impressive. It has turned me into a liar. Or it has turned me into a believer that... Okay, yeah, see this? Totally... Alright, let's go again. We are way too far up. We might actually need to get in more speed because it was kind of nose diving earlier. Now it's, yeah, it's a little faster now that I scooted back. It's doing its thing. This is so cheating. Motor current 24 and 92% battery. You know, it's not bad. It's loud as heck, but I mean, you're never gonna find another manual / auto motor. I really do like that safety feature that you have both types of propulsion at your fingertips. One thing I don't like, the whole overdrive is super not weedless. It will catch a weed and it'll take out the drive and make it way harder to pedal, slow you down, and the anti-jamming and pulling out process is a pain. It's doable, but it just sucks. And the overdrive is actually really heavy. But it does work well. It does get the kayak to a pretty good speed. I mean, it tied my ePropulsion Spirit 1.0, which is a 3 horsepower equivalent on that boat, and the kayak kept up right with it. And that is just a 12 volt system with that Power Queen like 50 amp hour lithium battery that performed exceptionally well and kept up at whole speed with my boat that had its own electric outboard. I think 24 volt and 36 volt setups on kayaks are just a mess. You're never going to get on plane. You're going to get at whole speed. You can reach whole speed with a 12 volt motor. So I'm glad they didn't complicate it. Running 12 volt motor systems in kayaks is way easier to do. As far as installation goes, on the Dorado, they're expecting you to have the overdrive and potentially install the electric unit. So they make it all really easy, and they have the harnesses and the wiring even there for the fish finders, all right there in the front compartment, which is not present on the FeelFree lure, which you have to do some mods to install the overdrive electric system. So let's talk about some of the differences and upgrades that the V2 has over the V1. There's really not a lot. I'm not going to drag it all out. I'll talk to you about the most important ones, and then you can ultimately decide what you think. Right off the bat, the coolest thing was the removable battery box. This is just a whole removable power station that is fully integrated into the kayak. You plug it in to power the kayak, then you can take it right out and take it to your campsite and charge it, or just use it as a power station out there in the sticks. It's pretty nice. And the black wire, once it's plugged in, controls all the accessories for the kayak. You have a copious amount of lighting throughout the entire kayak, not to mention USB ports. So the whole power and rigging is just done in its plug and play. It's pretty nice. The V1 Dorado also had a battery box, and it was really nice. It just wasn't removable. So adding the removable feature was great, because otherwise it kept all the same features as the V1 Dorado while making it removable for the V2. The one thing that the V1 Dorado did have is it had nav lights, and I really do miss those. It had forward and aft nav lights. I think not including the nav lights was a fail, but whatever. They also made slight upgrades to the gravity seat. Now the gravity seat is pretty nice. The slight lifting of the seat and the pulling of that red tab, you can move the seat up and down flawlessly at any height. Makes it really good for stowing or just in sort of comfort and ease. I always have it all the way up though. The bigger thing though is that version 1 had these straps over the front of the seat. I guess that allowed it to stay in place with, and also allowed it to slide up and down because that's what it needs. It kind of slides. But the version 2 actually has an integrated T-track with this thing on it. It's a really nice upgrade, but installation is not really obvious when you look at it. FeelFree also puts QR codes all over the important components of the kayak. So the QR code for the seat actually leads back to the Dorado V1, not the V2, so it's a pretty useless QR code. It doesn't actually show you how to install that little thing. We figured it out, but whatever. Another upgrade they tried was the transducer bracket. This is the version 1 Dorado. They had a mount there that you could slide down with tensioning of this knob here. They tried to simplify it with an all-new design that was controlled by a pull cord here, which in theory sounded fantastic. You wouldn't have to open up the lid to actuate that. This is the component though. The same 1-inch tubing, but the pull cord is out here and that pulls this shut. So it's tension on that, but here's the whole thing. The plastic that these metal brackets are screwed into, they already have pressure cracks. It's pressure cracked all the way up. So that's terribly unreliable. And then there's the simple fact that there's no good place to mount a transducer on here. There's no pre-mounted holes. no nothing. I'm not even sure how you would run the transducer wire successfully through the whole thing. I tried several different variations. Obviously, maybe this HD transducer from Garmin might not be the best thing to run on it, but even like a small nothing transducer from like a Hook 4 or something that you would get from Walmart, I think you would have trouble mounting that. I just don't. It's such a fail end result. Such a good concept, but such a fail end result. Total useless. I took it out, but I had to make my own. I never got to see what the V1 transducer mount looked like on the bottom, but considering it didn't have a pull cord, it probably didn't have none of that BS down there. And you could probably actually mount a real transducer. You would just have to slide it manually and open the compartment, which would get annoying over time, but it's still better than whatever we just saw now. The steering on this kayak might be one of my top 3 favorite things about the kayak, because it is controlled by like a little 8-ball lever on the left, and it turns flawlessly, no problems. Everybody else has a dial, some worse than others. Not a real big fan of the dial. This sounds more like a stick steer on a boat. Feels really good, like when ergonomically, I mean. Other than that, aside from some slight mold variations, and I do mean slight, it's pretty much the same boat. There's not any real significant difference from the V1 hull versus the V2. They say the bow's higher. I can't tell. It also has track systems everywhere, and that is one of the bigger reasons I even bought it. The T-tracks are odd and unlike anything else there on the market, and they're specifically made to fit a lot of FeelFree's quick release components to go in and out of this very seamlessly without the headache of actual T-tracks. The whole thing about it is you need adapters if you're ever going to run something else inside of it. But lastly, despite its flaws and strengths, let's get down to why I chose this kayak over any kayak, because we could have gotten anyone, no matter what it was. Could have been a Hobie Pro Angler, could have been a Bonafide or a Native Watercraft, any of those. But really, all the ones I've seen and tested, not terribly impressed. I mean, I've had the money there, I had my card out, I just could never commit until this one came along. When I saw it, I looked at what it could be and if I could actually do it. Most kayaks are molded in such a way that they can only really take proprietary mods or nothing. This one actually, you have some room to put some things in there and add things. It's got molds, it's got the same problems as a kayak, but it's not so terribly crazy you can't do things to it. It's also extremely stable, so when we put these mods in there, I don't really have to worry about falling out. The kayak is incredibly stable. It's more stable than a Hobie Pro Angler 12, a Hobie Pro Angler 14. I haven't tested like the whole gambit of serious fishing kayaks, but man, this thing's as stable as a John boat, really is. And that's why I chose it. And that's why we're only going to do this one, and it is going to be this kayak. Stay tuned for the finished product.